Great Voyage. Top Shikai Ryujin Jakka reigns. Chapter 31. Di Luo entered the town again alone. Not long. At this moment, a group of powerful people came to Buro Island, and a huge warship stopped in front of Buro Island. The Marine Rear Admiral, Shun Kearns, stationed on the island, wearing a neat military uniform and a Marine Justice cloak, personally led hundreds of Marine guards to receive. Starting from the port, the ground is covered with a brand new red carpet, extending from the pier to the innermost palace in the town. The carpet is covered with fresh flowers that have just been picked. That's right, what the world government values so much is naturally the legendary celestial dragons. As the celestial dragons of the world's nobles, in their eyes, everyone in the world is their slaves. Traveling is such a luxury. Don't take anyone seriously. At this moment, a group of people came down from the huge battleship. A guy dressed like an astronaut is particularly conspicuous. This bloated and tall guy is led by several guards in black suits, and another team of guards in strange armor is behind. And this time the Celestial Dragons, Sicilian Saint, are in the middle of the team. Celestial Dragons Sicilian Saint has a relatively fat figure. Wearing Celestial Dragon's special costumes and wearing a special hood, the whole person looks even more bloated and looks a little funny. But now no one dares to laugh, everyone has a serious expression, even fear. The civilians outside the red carpet, whether you are a pirate or something, are obediently kneeling on both sides. Certainly. It's not the Celestial Dragon's Sicilian saintly miraculous service attire that strikes everyone's heart. But after he got off the boat, he was always riding on the back of a man who was walking on all fours. It was a man with a strong figure standing at least 5 meters. A man with strong limbs, shaved hair, chains around his body, and the Celestial Dragon's logo branded on his back. On the face is wearing a ghost face iron mask, there is an iron ring on the neck, 2 iron chains are tied to the 2 ends of the iron ring, and the other end of the iron chain is held in the hand by the Celestial Dragons. Riding him, this man seems to have become his mount. The mounts of Celestial Dragons are human beings. This is nothing unusual at all. Everyone felt a little numb when they saw this scene. And this Celestial Dragons is still holding 2 chains in their hands, and behind the chains are tied 2 beauties who are scantily dressed, of first-class stature and appearance. They were also chained around the neck, and let that Celestial Dragon's Sicilian Saint drag them along, following behind with a look of death on their faces. When the pirate kneeling on the ground accidentally saw the mount of the Celestial Dragons, his expression was horrified. Many have recognized the man who was being ridden by the Celestial Dragons. It was a very famous big pirate captured by Marine in New World not long ago. The big pirate, Pig. This guy not only has the blood of a giant, but also has excellent fighting talent. I am still a Zone Awakened ability user with very strong strength. In the past, this guy was unruly in his daily life. He made waves in New World and did many sensational events. In Marine's pursuit again and again, he escaped easily. This guy, not only had a collision with 4 emperors and Charlotte Linlin but also had a fight with red hair and retreated. It is very famous in the New World, it can be said that everyone knows everyone. Later, the guy went too far in New World and he caused a riot that injured one of the Celestial Dragons. This also aroused the wrath of the world government. The world government directly issued a death order to naval headquarters, and Piglet must be captured. Afterwards, Sengoku ordered, and Kizaru did it himself. In the end, Pig was captured by Kizaru without much surprise. It is said that he once had a fierce battle with Kizaru. Although Pig lost in the end, Kizaru did not win so easily. Those who have seen that battle said that it was probably the most serious battle that Kizaru fought after he was promoted to admiral. That battle lasted almost a whole day before losing to Kizaru. But, everyone knows that losing to Kizaru is not a disgrace. After all, in this world, there are only a handful of people who can beat Admiral. Not to mention, he fought Kizaru all day and night. But, what everyone never expected is, it's only been a while since he was caught. The big pirate who once dominated the party and dared to challenge the 4 emperors has been completely tamed. Celestial Dragon's methods are indeed terrifying. This also made everyone's shadow of Celestial Dragons even stronger. It seems that no matter who it is, as long as they mess with the celestial dragons, the end will be bad. So what if he is a great pirate who offends the celestial dragons and becomes a mount and is ridden under his crotch? Looking at the ordinary people kneeling on both sides with their heads bowed and not saying a word. Sicilian Sicily, who was riding the big pirate, had a look of disdain. He was extremely arrogant. It seemed that just looking at these people would stain his eyes. Touch. He stepped on Pig's head with one foot and kicked heavily. Bump bump. Then he kept stepping on the back of Pig's head, and said impatiently, "Hurry up, slave, dawdling, delaying my work, do you want to die?" Walking on both sides of celestial dragons, several people wearing black suits and sunglasses, with their hands in their pockets, walked casually, without any change in expression. These people are members of CP0, the exclusive escort team of celestial dragons. At this moment, feeling the majesty of the celestial dragons, even Marine, standing on both sides of the red carpet with a gun in his hand, was sweating and dared not take a breath. And the Marine Rear Admiral stationed on the island, Kearns, a man who doesn't look very eye-catching, is also honestly following the celestial dragons at the end of the team. Celestial dragons, Sicilian Saint, rode the chair that the former big pirate Pig fixed on his back, stepped on his head, and held the chain, walking all the way from the red carpet. For the people kneeling on both sides and burying their heads on the ground, Saint Sicily did not take a second look from the beginning to the end, as if one more look would dirty his eyes. The arrogance of celestial dragons is fully reflected in him. Until the team of celestial dragons left the coast and entered the town. In the back, the people kneeling on both sides slowly got up. Among them, a man who was more than 2 meters tall stood up wearing a blue vest, purple cropped pants, and a pair of black leather shoes. The man with long yellow hair patted the non-existent dust on his knees, looked at the back of celestial dragons leaving, with a cold but helpless expression. Celestial dragons, in this world, their status has long been ingrained, not just 1 or 2 people, or just 1 or 2 words. And this yellow-haired man, named Mengma Q, is the leader of the Black Madara Horse Pirates. The Black Madara Horse Pirates, although not very famous, but few people dare to provoke them. This is the man who rejected the invitation of Shichibukai from the Marine government. At this moment, following behind Corvo, a strong man, Charlotte, who looked only about 1.7 meters tall, got up. This man looked a little ugly, his expression was numb, he didn't say anything, he just took a picture of the dust behind Corvo. It is worth mentioning that this man's fists are extraordinarily large, like 2 small copper hammers, and the fists are covered with calluses. Instead, get up with them. A woman named Donnie was wearing purple hot pants, a black cutout t-shirt, a pair of fair and long legs, a very good figure, and a thin sword. Looking at the back of the celestial dragons leaving, his complexion was ashen, and he could even be said to be gnashing his teeth. Charlotte and Danny are the right-hand men of Corvo, the captain of the Black Madara Horse Pirates, and the 2 most trusted people of Corvo. Danny, as a scholar of ancient literature, she comes from a family of great writers, knowledgeable and proud. Even to Captain Corvo, she never bows to him like everyone else on board. She is knowledgeable about the past and the present, and even knows ancient characters. Therefore, she naturally will not think that celestial dragons are born nobler and more talented than others like other ignorant people. Dissatisfaction with celestial dragons has not been a day or 2. Even so, she also knows that celestial dragons dare not provoke them, no matter how dissatisfied she is. When she meets celestial dragons, she should kneel. Otherwise, the end will be miserable. If she is killed by celestial dragons, she will die in vain. No one will seek justice for her. In this world, celestial dragons are the existence of the highest power, controlling life and death. Once they are provoked, Naval Headquarters Vice Admiral, and even Admiral, will take action, and no one can escape when the time comes. A group of pig-like things. Why do people kneel down to pigs? The celestial dragons had gone far away. Marine, and the ordinary people watching had also dispersed. Danny couldn't help but sneered. Celestial dragons, even if they are pigs, they are still celestial dragons, a race maintained by the world government. Kwo didn't show his anger like Danny, but said with a bright smile, "So, you should bear it, you still have to bear it, And, Danny, it's fine to say this in front of us, outside, don't how dare you talk nonsense. Danny rolled his eyes at him and said, I'm not a fool, I know the seriousness. Captain. Charlotte stood beside Kovo, looked up at him, and said in a low voice, Di Luo, one of the new 4 emperors, has gone to the island, and not long ago, he had a conflict with the bar owner, Sophia. Quote. Oh. Kovo said with a half smile, they fought. Yeah. Charlotte nodded. Not long ago, they fought in the duel field. Do you still remember the astonishing coercion that covered the entire island in an instant? No wonder, I said who on the island can release that level of coercion. It seems that this Di Luo is not easy. Kavoruo nodded, and said thoughtfully, what is the result of their battle? Sophia failed miserably. Charlotte said sternly, moreover, it was a one-sided fiasco. And, your guess is correct, Sophia, even if you have the ability to distort fruit. She used her ability, but even so, that battle, for Di Luo, might just be a joke, and he handled it with ease. Quote. Tisk, it looks like the new 4 emperors, who replaced Whitebeard, has real skills, and it wasn't Sengoku who launched it to top the tank. Corvo narrowed his eyes and said. I've already said, this guy is a monster. I saw the live broadcast with my own eyes. You still don't believe me. Danny flicked her long hair on her forehead, and continued, Captain, what are you going to do next? Do you still want to go? After thinking for a while, Kovo said, let's put the original plan on hold for now, let's wait and see what happens, some people can't sit still, and there are a lot of people who want to try the depth of this Emperor of the Sea, why should we be the spearhead? Meanwhile, Di Luo is wandering around town, shopping for some necessities that can be used. Get out of the way. Get out of the way. At this moment, the people on the island suddenly became agitated. Not far away, a marine walked over noisily, talking about something. The people on both sides of the road seemed to have heard something, and ran to both sides, kneeling on both sides of the road. This is. Di Luo was still a little puzzled, did he already have such a big face? Shouldn't it? Soon, he knew the reason, it turned out that he was being passionate. A team of Marines ran up, guns in hand, and one of them yelled. Get out of the way, the nobles of celestial dragons are here, everyone, kneel on both sides to greet them. I'm the first to say something ugly, I offended celestial dragons and was killed, don't blame anyone. Di Luo suddenly realized that this was the case, so he said that his own face was not so great. It turns out that it is the moths of this world, the existence that everyone hates but everyone fears, celestial dragons, here they come. However, this travel ostentation is a bit too big, right? Although Di Luo knew about celestial dragons' piss, he still sneered. Hey, that person over there, if you don't want to die, get out of here. Where are you still, angered celestial dragons, do you want to court death? Not far away, when all the civilians heard the name of celestial dragons, they either went back to their houses and closed the doors, or they knelt down on both sides of the road. As for Di Luo, she was still strolling down the street leisurely. In the distance, a marine with a saber and a marine standard musket in his hand shouted at Di Luo. Di Luo turned around, glanced at the marine soldier captain, and said lightly, where I go is my freedom, and no one can yell in front of me, whether you marines or celestial dragons, it's best not to mess with me. I see you. The squad leader walked over with a musket in his hand, ready to get angry. However, when he saw Di Luo's appearance clearly, he trembled all over. You are. As a small captain of marine, he has already received a wanted warrant, and he has already remembered Di Luo's appearance in his heart. Di Luo glanced contemptuously at the trembling Captain Marine, who couldn't help but take a few steps back. He smiled faintly. He was wearing a black coat, holding on to Tiong's sword hilt, turned around and left without saying a word. Looking at Di Luo who has gone far away. Gudong. Marine squad leader Klein just swallowed a mouthful of saliva. The reason why he was so afraid of this person in front of him. Only because he received a reward order from Naval Headquarters yesterday, along with a secret summons. The new Emperor of the Sea, Di Luo went to sea, and his strength has already surpassed Admiral. If it is not absolutely necessary, try not to have friction with him. Clint looked around. On one side is Di Luo, the Emperor of the Sea, whose strength surpasses that of Admiral, and on the other side, the Celestial Dragons, the nobles of the world. Klein knew that he would never be able to offend him. According to inside information, this new Sea Emperor is an absolutely terrifying existence. However, on the other side are the unreasonable Celestial Dragons. Whichever side you offend, you might lose your life. Asshole. Klein gritted his teeth. If he knew it earlier, he would go to patrol the sea today. Looking back for the last time, the team of Celestial Dragons Sicily has reached the intersection of the town and entered the town. He glanced at Di Luo who was walking in the opposite direction. This evil star, leave now. He could only secretly pray that this fellow Di Luo, if he went far along this road, he wouldn't run into Celestial Dragons. Not far away, Celestial Dragons riding the big pirate pig came along the streets of the town, and all the civilians were kneeling on both sides. Marine, on the other hand, stood neatly on both sides, maintaining the road. After tidying up his clothes, Klein quickly found a place and stood on both sides of the truth. After a while, Sicilian Sisi came over on his big pirate mount. Looking at the ordinary people kneeling on both sides, with their heads buried deep, they dare not even look up at him respectfully. Saint Sicilian dragged the slave and lay on the mount. He enjoyed this supreme feeling very much. Bump. While stepping on the back of Pig's head, he was wiping his leather shoes, and at the same time he thought to himself, he had practiced his guns well during this period of time, should he give it a try. However, thinking of the purpose of this trip, he smiled, wishing to see that thing right away. How far is it? Sicilian Saint asked impatiently. Marine Rear Admiral Carnes, who was following behind him, heard the words of Celestial Dragon's Sicilian Saint, stepped forward quickly, and said in a low voice. Dear Your Excellency, the thing you want is in the middle of the town, and you can walk there in a few minutes. Sicilian Sishung nodded. The good thing he had been thinking about was finally about to be seen, and he was also a little excited. So he kicked Pig hard and said, hurry up. As he said that, he tugged on the iron chain in his hand and pulled it hard. Then Pig really accelerated. At the same time, Di Luo, wearing a black cloak, was standing in the central square of the town, looking at a big tree growing in the very center of the town square. This big tree is pale red in color, straight as a hole, and its bark is metallic in color. The tree body is about the thickness of a bucket. On the luxuriant branches, the branches hang down, and the leaves growing on them are water blue. If you look carefully, you will find that there seems to be water flowing on the leaves, which is very strange. Moreover, this tree exudes a faint fragrance, which makes people feel refreshed. Not only that, but smelling the strange fragrance made his restless heart calm down. This plant seems to have the effect of nourishing the mind, it is really good. Di Luo really wanted to know what kind of tree it was, and he had never seen it before. He turned his head and looked, but he couldn't find anyone. At this moment, upon receiving the news that the Celestial Dragons were coming, there was no one in the square, so they either left or went to kneel down to welcome the Celestial Dragons. Tisk tisk, this is a rare species. Di Luo looked at the big tree, wondering if he could take it away and keep it on his boat. Just when Di Luo was thinking about how to uproot this tree. In the distance, Street. Sicily, riding a piggy's Celestial Dragons, walked into the side of the square. When he saw that tree, his face was overjoyed. However, when he saw a person standing under the tree, anger suddenly appeared on his face, and he shouted. Thing, dare to be so disrespectful, it's really an eyesore. But soon, he seemed to think of something, and raised his hand to stop the bodyguard who wanted to use it. He took out a golden musket directly from under the seat. This musket is different from ordinary muskets. Not only is it golden in color, but it is also slender. Moreover, the scope looks very advanced. Saint Sicily held a golden gun and said with a smile. Hey, this is a new musket newly researched by Vegapunk. According to him, the power is very good. I haven't had time to try the power. Now, isn't this a good opportunity? As he spoke, he pointed his musket and aimed directly at the man standing under the tree. Watching the Celestial Dragons, Saint Sicily, holding a golden gun, aiming at the man in the square. Everyone, including the Marines on both sides of the road, was silent. And Marine Rear Admiral Carnes smiled indifferently. Whoever stands in the way of the celestial dragons, the kind that no one can stop. He had given the order of Jingji a long time ago. If he dares to stay here now, he is either courting death or not afraid of death. No matter which one it was, in Kern's eyes, this person was already a corpse. For myself, I just need to find someone to drag it out later and throw it into the sea to feed the fish. Having seen this kind of thing a lot, he has long been used to it. Die. Saint Cecilian, holding a golden musket, aimed at the back of the head of the man on the square through a high-end scope. Then, he pulled the trigger without hesitation. Boom. With a clear gunshot, it resounded throughout the quiet town, and the bullets in the golden musket were fired instantly. Buzz. A bullet as thick as an adult's thumb spins and shoots out at high speed, pointing directly at the head of the person in the square. At this moment, everyone was staring at the square. Some people couldn't bear to close their eyes, some looked at it indifferently, and some people looked like they were watching the show. Zzz. However, to everyone's surprise, the scene of blood splattering all over the ground did not happen. The bullet fired by Sicilian Saint actually stopped directly behind the man's head. Then the continuous high-speed rotation seemed to be blocked by some powerful force. Although the bullet was less than an inch away from that person's brain. However, it was just a mere inch, but it became an insurmountable gap for that bullet. Is it a capable person? Seeing that the shot missed the man, Sicilian Saint, who was holding the musket, said angrily that the shot did not blow the man's head, which made him very upset. Should have the consciousness of a fool. It is your greatest honor as a fool to let me shoot you. Saint Sicily cursed, then he raised his musket again and aimed at that person. Bang! 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 The crisp gunshots sounded. He fired 3 shots in a row. However, the 3 shots were all the same as before, and the bullets stopped behind the man's head. In the square, Di Luo turned around slowly. Looking at the guy riding a big pirate, high above the sky, wearing a space suit, pointing a musket at him, Di Luo said coldly. Do you want to die? He doesn't care who the other party is, whether it's celestial dragons or Tengu people. If he messes with him, he will have to pay the price. Beast, what an eyesore. Brush. The proud Sicilian Saint stood up from the chair on the back of the big pirate pig, stood behind Pig, pointed to Di Luo, and said. I don't care what you are, just roll with me immediately and kneel at my feet. Seeing that you have some strength, you can barely be my dog, so I will spare your life. As he spoke, he stepped on the piggy under his feet and said, just like him. Hee hee. Di Luo looked at this fat pig-like guy, smiled, and said, really? As he spoke, he raised his hand and waved lightly. Swoosh. Whoosh. 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 Several bullets suspended in front of his eyes rebounded in an instant, and shot directly towards Celestial Dragon's Sicilian Saint. And he, still looking at Di Luo with his eyes open, couldn't react at all. Brush. Still beside him, a man in a black suit took a step forward, one hand turned black instantly, and slashed towards several bullets as fast as lightning. Dang. 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 Following a series of light bangs, the bullets reflected by Di Luo were all blocked by this man and sent flying. Looking at this person, 4 thumb-sized dents were left on the pitch-black arm. Even though he was running armament hockey with all his strength, he still couldn't completely resist the power of these bullets. His arms were trembling constantly. The man in a black suit looked at Di Luo and said coldly, do you know the price of taking action against celestial dragons? Cost. Di Luo sneered, still supporting Tiank with one hand, raised the other hand, moved his 5 fingers, looked at this man and said, I never consider the so-called cost when I do things. I am very curious. If I kill this, what about a fat pig? Get rid of him. The CP0 in the black suit ordered indifferently. Whoosh whoosh. Several other CP0 members in black suits and sunglasses, who were protecting him around street. Sicily, moved out in an instant and rushed towards Di Luo. Bang bang. Bang bang. Bang bang. With a few clear and crisp sounds of flying, the fight is only an instant. The several CP0 members who rushed forward all flew out backwards, leaving a deep slap on everyone's chest, and their hearts were shattered. Their chests were completely sunken, and it seemed that they could not survive. For those who want to kill themselves, Di Luo has never been soft, no matter who they are, it's the same. To be honest, Di Luo, a member of CP0, is totally ignored. Now, if it's Admiral's shot, he can barely take it seriously. Small characters like CP0 are really not enough to watch, although they are the guards directly under celestial dragons. However, compared to Naval Headquarters Admiral, they are far behind, and even worse than some Naval Headquarters Vice Admiral. Di Luo stood there with one hand on the sky, without even moving the position, that is to say. Just now, Di Luo killed several CP0 members instantly with just one hand. To him, CP0 people are nothing more than ants. This is enough to show that Di Luo's current strength is already strong enough. Looking at the few CP0 members who fell on the ground and lost their breaths soon, Sicily Sishung stomped his feet continuously, roared, then pointed to Di Luo, and said, "You all, kill him, I will cut off his flesh and blood piece by piece, and feed it to my dog." Yes. Behind him, guards in armor also ran out. Even the Marine Rear Admiral, Kearns, moved. However, when he clearly saw that person's appearance, his expression changed. Isn't this person the new Emperor of the Sea? It's really him. Looking at Di Luo, Kearns hesitated after confirming Di Luo's identity. Now, he still has a copy of Di Luo's reward order, and he confirms that he will not identify the wrong person. No, you can't fight. This was the first thought in Kearns' mind. Knowing the inside information, of course he knew the horror of the man in front of him. This is a character that even Naval Headquarters and a Kainu Admiral can't help. However, it was at this moment when he hesitated. Beside him, a group of armored guards guarding Sicilian Saint had already charged towards Di Luo with their knives drawn. They are the direct guards of Saint Sicily and completely obey the orders of Saint Sicily. As long as the order of Sicily Sishung arrives, no matter whether it is a sea of swords or swords ahead, they will go forward bravely, even if they know it is death, they will rush forward. To put it bluntly, they are just dead warriors trained by celestial dragons. Moreover, these guards are all carefully selected experts with very strong combat effectiveness. Bang bang bang. Bang bang bang. Looking at the guards in heavy armor rushing towards him, Di Luo smiled. How is this different from charging towards him with a bomb strapped on, and it's still when the switch of the bomb is in his hand? Seeing that the group of guards had rushed in front of him, I saw that Di Luo raised his hand, spread his palm, aimed at these people, and then shook it violently. Buzz. In an instant, the ability was activated. Ka ka ka. Ka ka ka. Ka ka ka. In just a split second, the armor covering those guards began to twist wildly and then shrink violently. Ah! Ah! With a scream, these armor-wrapped guards were all killed by the rapidly shrinking armor. Bang bang. Bang bang. Bang bang. These armored guards fell down one after another, and bright red blood flowed out from the armor. Then, Di Luo looked at that celestial dragons, Saint Sicilian, and waved his hand. Brush. In his hand, the golden long spear was released from his hand, then rushed into the air, the gun turned around and aimed directly at him. You. Sicily saw the guards protecting him, as well as the CP0 members, being killed in an instant. This guy was finally scared. And as the musket in his hand was snatched, the muzzle of the black hole was aimed directly at him. Touch. He sat down on the chair, looked at Di Luo, and said, "You, what do you want to do?" Di Luo smiled slightly. Stop. At this moment, Rear Admiral Kearns moved. His figure flashed and stood in front of Saint Sicily. Looking at Di Luo, he said in a low voice. The new Sea Emperor, Di Luo. You can't kill him. Bang. The next moment, a gunshot rang out. Kearns instantly covered his whole body with armor, and at the same time shouted, "Iron body." When the sound of crisp metal strikes sounded, Kearns remained motionless, and directly crossed his arms to block the bullet. The bullet flew out, and there was a puff of white smoke from his arm, but it was intact. Oh, not bad. Looking at him, Di Luo said lightly, "When I landed on this island before, I heard that the Rear Admiral stationed on this island has some skills. Now it seems that it is true. Why, you want to attack me?" Quote. Kearns stared at Di Luo. He knew the gap between Di Luo and him before the fight. If Di Luo was serious, he would definitely die. But, even so, he still said with a serious expression. Di Luo, I don't care if you kill anyone here today, but this celestial dragons can't. Do you know the price of killing celestial dragons? Believe me, even you can't afford it. At this moment, Sicily, who was slumped on the chair behind Kearns, seemed to react. Yes, he is celestial dragons, why should he be afraid of a mere pirate? Thinking of this, he sat up straight all of a sudden, raised his hand, pointed at Di Luo in the distance and shouted. That's right, you hateful beast, how dare you attack your master, do you know who rules this world? It's a celestial dragons. All but the celestial dragons are lowly brutes, and you are no exception. As beasts, you should be driven by our celestial dragons. How dare you devour the Lord now? Do you know what the price will be if you touch me? I don't care who you are dead, first we'll call Marine Admiral when I go back, and kill you. Quote. Ha 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 ha. Ha 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 ha. Di Luo smiled, opened his hands, raised his head and smiled unscrupulously, then looked at Carnes, and said. Rear Admiral, did you hear that? Take a closer look, this is what you faithfully guard and protect. In his eyes, you are just a beast, no different from me and everyone else, nothing more than an obedient beast and a disobedient beast. World nobles. Don't be ridiculous, in this world, who is born to be the master? Are they celestial dragons? Get the hell out of here. Princes and generals, it's better to be kind, this world is the world of capable people, not the world of stupid pigs like them. Those who are incompetent, that's all, they can only linger on. However, people like you and me should live a more exciting life, instead of being a dog to others, but also depending on people's faces. Quote. You. Kearns was shocked by Di Luo's remarks, he stared at Di Luo in a daze. As long as he can remember, the education he has received has been that celestial dragons come first, and that all codes of conduct must be followed by celestial dragons. This is also the principle he has followed for so many years. However, after years of exposure to celestial dragons, he learned of the cruelty and ruthlessness of celestial dragons, and his heart has not been shaken. However, things like beliefs are actually very difficult to change. Once they are deeply ingrained, there is no major change, and it is impossible to overthrow the long-established cognition in my heart. Marine, what are you waiting for? At this time, the Sicilian saint behind him continued to point at Kearns, and while stomping on the pig crazily, he dictated and shouted. I want you to kill him, quick. Do you want to disobey me? Kearns gritted his teeth and rushed towards Di Luo. Stubborn. Since you are willing to be a dog, then I will help you. Di Luo shook his head slightly, and his expression became a little colder. Boom. Facing Kearns' fierce punch, Di Luo raised his hand and easily caught it. What? Kearns was startled. He knew he couldn't hurt Di Luo, but he didn't expect his attack to be followed so easily. Go away. Di Luo let out a soft drink, then raised his foot and kicked it out so fast that Kearns didn't have any time to react. It kicked him hard in the stomach. Bump. Kearns' whole body was sent flying like a cannonball. Then, it slammed heavily on the buildings on the edge of the square. Boom. The power of this kick, directly together with Kearns and the buildings beside the square, collapsed. Ahem. Kearns got up from the ruins, looked at Di Luo, and was terrified. Is this the Four Emperors? The gap is really too big. He has strength, it's true. Otherwise, he would not be able to sit in this position. He has practiced physical skills for many years, which makes him enough to deal with most pirates. However, when he met the person in front of him, he felt a deep sense of powerlessness. The two are not in the same dimension at all. Di Luo didn't take another look at Kearns, but stared at the celestial dragons riding the big pirate pig, and raised his hand. Ka ka ka. That golden musket aimed at celestial dragon's Sicilian saint again. But, hateful. Sensing the cold killing intent emanating from the black muzzle of the gun, Sicilian Sishung finally panicked. All the bodyguards he brought out were beaten. He swallowed, looked at Di Luo, and said, Asshole, I am celestial dragons. Celestial dragons, won't they die? Di Luo always smiled indifferently, and said, if you will not die, then I will recognize your status. After all, it is quite scary not to be killed. With that said, he was about to make a move. Stop. Stop it. At this moment, Kearns, who was watching this scene, charged up again and rushed towards Di Luo. He knows what will happen once the celestial dragons die here. At that time, Burrow Island will not stay behind. It will even be more involved, maybe it will cause a big shock. Finger pistol. Kearns jumped up suddenly, and rushed towards Di Luo, with his fingers together, the fingertips condensed a powerful force, which seemed to be able to penetrate everything. Ka ka ka. The moment Kearns jumped up, iron chains the size of chopsticks burst out from the ground, piercing Kearns' hands and feet in an instant. The iron chain that covered Di Luo's armor color, it was too easy to go through him. Just as Kearns himself thought, there is a dimensional gap between him and Di Luo. This is a huge gap that cannot be bridged. Clatter. Then, the iron chain extended, then suddenly contracted and twisted, dragging Kearns to the ground. Boom. There was a crisp gunshot. Wow. A figure rushed up from Sicily's side in an instant, blocking the bullet. This person is the CP0 member who was the first to attack Di Luo before, and he is not dead. He has been standing beside Saint Sicily to observe the situation, and he has resisted a counterattack from Di Luo before, and his hands are still numb now. However, there was no time for him to rest and recover. Now, Saint Sicily is facing threats to his life, so naturally he won't just sit idly by. PFF'd. With a spray of blood floating up, this resistance directly cost him his life. This shot. It's not the same as before when Di Luo fought back casually. Di Luo knew a long time ago that it would not be so easy to hit this celestial dragons, and he must stand up for the dead. So, he quietly covered a bullet with the armed color, and then sent it into the gun chamber. This bullet, which covered his weapon color, can penetrate anything that stands in the way. Therefore, the head of this brave CP0 member who dared to resist was shot through on the spot. Even though he buffed the armed color and used the iron body on his head, it still didn't work. Bump. This CP0 member fell heavily on the square, blood flowed out from his head. Hate, waste, all waste, even a mere pirate can't stop. Sicilian Sishan, still yelling and scolding, he dragged the iron chain, his face was extremely gloomy. However, he doesn't have much fear, he doesn't believe that in this world, some people dare to kill celestial dragons, it's nothing more than the lack of a few obedient dogs, this kind of thing, there are a lot of backups in the future. Pirate, you are finished, I must make you a slave for me to drive. He was still yelling there. Brush. In the distance, a figure flashed, and Di Luo disappeared in place. Saint Sicily was taken aback. The next moment, he felt a black shadow blocking the sun, and when he turned his head, Di Luo was standing behind him. He was startled at first, then furious. Who told you to come up? Noisy thing. Di Luo raised his hand and pulled out the tionk from his waist, then waved it along. Crack. A cracking sound sounded. Then, Sicilian Sishung, under the eyes of astonishment, saw his body, getting farther and farther away from him. PFF'd. Old Gao splashed with blood. Backtrack. At this moment, an abrupt voice sounded. Zzz. The time and space surrounding Street Sicily began to distort. His head flew up from the ground and returned to Saint Sicily's neck again. The time returned to a few seconds ago. When Di Luo draws the sword, not only that, but also where Di Luo is fixed. Brush. Then, a figure flashed past, directly dragging the fat body of Sicilian Saint, and rolled down from the big pirate pig, at a very fast speed. It disappeared in the square in an instant. In the distance, a man with a height of about 2.5 meters, wearing a black and white mesh suit, a pure white shirt, and a black top hat appeared. He was holding his top hat, and a pure silver cane about 1 meter long was hanging on his arm. This person's complexion is very white, frighteningly white, like the belly of a dead fish, it looks particularly pervasive. Just now, this guy activated the strange backtracking ability and saved that celestial dragons. He stared at Di Luo, and said flatly. Di Luo, no matter how strong you are, you dare to attack the celestial dragons. This is disrespectful and a great crime. You have committed such a heinous crime, just wait, someone will punish you. Quote. After saying this, the strange man stepped back, and a transparent door opened behind him, he entered it directly, and then disappeared. Di Luo, on the other hand, stood there, watching him disappear without any intention of making a move. Interesting. Di Luo smiled. He didn't care at all what this man said. It's a pity that he didn't kill this celestial dragons completely, but it doesn't hurt him. Just now, he was indeed careless. I didn't expect there to be such a backhand. However, this operation was not busy, and he once again gained a large amount of reputation points. Especially the person who appeared last gave him a lot of reputation points, a full 5% for one person. Brush. Di Luo raised his hand and waved the tionk in his hand. Clatter. Tien K turned upside down, and then sheathed the sword at his waist. It's interesting. It seems that whether it's the world government or the celestial dragons, it's not easy. Holding Tionk's sword hilt, looking at the few people who disappeared after saving the celestial dragons, Di Luo murmured to himself. Not that he couldn't kill that guy. If he is really ruthless, he can indeed keep those few people. But he feels that there is no need to take any step now, and it is better to keep some of his own strength. Moreover, keeping these guys is also nourishment for earning reputation points. Then, Di Luo turned around and continued to walk towards the tree in the square. He was very curious about this tree. At this moment, no matter whether it was the civilians kneeling on the side of the square or the marine, they were all dumbfounded, staring blankly at Di Luo, daring to say a single word. What Di Luo did directly overturned their cognition. For a long time, in their hearts, celestial dragons is absolute. This statement, today, is broken here. It turns out that in this world, there are really guys who dare to attack celestial dragons. The newly appointed emperor of the sea in front of him seemed to have nothing he dared not do. As for the threat from the previous person, Di Luo actually didn't take it seriously. On the contrary, he is looking forward to what will happen to the so-called revenge and punishment. If you really piss him off, Ryujin Jakka in your hand will directly bankai. At that time, he would like to see if anyone in this world, the so-called supreme race, can bear Bankai's Ryujin Jakka remnant fire Taidao. When the time comes, let's see who is afraid of whom. Now, Di Luo carefully looked at the strange tree in front of him. When he got close to the tree, his restless heart calmed down again. The end is magical. This thing. Di Luo thought about it, then turned around, looked at a dull marine not far away, and said, "Hey, come here." What? The marine was taken aback for a moment, then reacted. Gudong. He swallowed. There were corpses all over the floor, although the dead are not a big deal here. But, these are the direct guards of celestial dragons, they are dead now, even celestial dragons almost died. Although trembling all over, he still walked over. Looking at the trembling marine, Di Luo said, "Is that you?" Di Luo recognized at a glance, isn't this person the marine who warned him? Klein timidly said, It's me. Could it be that Di Luo wants to settle accounts with himself? Klein was so scared that he couldn't speak fluently anymore. Only now did he realize that the Emperor of the Sea is so rich in gold that it's better to meet him than to be famous. Di Luo actually didn't care about him, but looked at the tree in front of him and said, "Hey, Marine, do you know the origin of this tree?" Klein shrank his neck, and his first reaction was to make up something to fool him. However, when he looked at Di Luo, who was holding the sword hilt with one hand and stroking his chin with the other, looking at the tree that was calm. For some reason, a deep fear rose in his heart. This is the fear that comes from the depths of the soul. In the end, he still didn't dare to make up things. After swallowing a mouthful of saliva, he still said truthfully. This tree, as early as when Buro Island was still a deserted island, it had already appeared here. Later, after it was discovered, people gradually lived here and established a small town, and Marine also established a supply station here. Later, someone discovered the unusualness of this tree, which seemed to have some kind of magical effect. According to a botanical expert, this tree has lived for more than 1,000 years. However, until now, it still shows no signs of withering. This tree once became the iconic plant of this island, and even the logo of this island on the root is also the appearance of this plant. It can be said to be a rare plant. As for how rare, I don't know. After all, no one can say exactly what this plant is. Once upon a time, no expert in botany could explain why, let alone other people. All I know is that not long ago, the celestial dragons, Saint of Sicily, seemed to have found the truth about this tree in their library. After all, the celestial dragons know more. Afterwards, he hastily ordered us to protect the tree, and then he couldn't wait to rush over. Seems to want to dig up the tree. After that, what happened today? Oh. After listening to Klingon's words, Di Luo nodded slightly. In this way, this plant should be very difficult. This is something that even the celestial dragons covet. Furthermore, Di Luo felt that this tree was extraordinary. Well, it looks like this tree is definitely a good thing. My boat just lacks a little green decoration. I will take this tree away. Di Luo looked at the tree, said softly, and then waved his hand. Boom boom boom. In an instant, a large amount of metal began to twist around, and then flew over neatly, forming a huge iron spoon, directly uprooting the entire square. When Di Luo shoveled up the entire square, suddenly, the tree was slowly withering. People move to live, but trees move to die. Although Di Luo knows this truth. However, in order to ensure that the tree would not die, he shoveled all the land under the square, tens of meters away. Even so, is it okay? Looking at the tree that is gradually withering, can't this tree move? Correct. Di Luo's expression changed, and he suddenly remembered that he still has an ability. He raised his hand and pressed it on the trunk of the tree. The sage body substance, the energy of the wood-style secret technique was transmitted into the tree body through his hands. Clatter. The next moment, the whole tree miraculously began to rejuvenate. Not only that, but the leaves became even more crystal clear. Even, the branches are supporting blossoming flowers. It seems that my wood-style power is not easy. Sending a large amount of immortal power, the tree was completely revived. However, just when Di Luo was about to take the tree away, an accident happened. Stop. You can't take this tree away. In the distance, several old people supported each other and walked over tremblingly. These are a few old men who have lost all their hair and have few teeth. Leaning on crutches, they walked over as fast as they could. They walked all the way to the ruined square. Looking up, I looked at the huge metal spoon that scooped up the entire square. Di Luo stood under this tree, looked down, and waved his hand. Boom boom boom. The huge spoon, carrying the plaza, flew directly into the sky. Stop it, you nasty pirate. An old man kept standing on the ground with a cane, and cursed at the same time. Pirate, you can't do this. This tree is the spiritual tree of our island. It shelters us, you can't take it away. Hearing the scolding, Di Luo squinted his eyes. To be honest, he was a little upset. Brush. The next moment, he walked out of the square, fell from the sky, landed firmly on the ground, and glanced at the old men. Under Di Luo's powerful aura, the old men took a few steps back unconsciously, out of instinctive fear of the strong. And Di Luo held the hilt of the sword with one hand, looked at them, and said indifferently. Let me ask you a question, if the celestial dragons were here to pull up this tree, would you still dare to come out and stop it? One of the old men looked at Di Luo, hesitated for a while, and said, as long as we are alive, it is impossible. Stop kidding yourself. Di Luo said coldly, do you dare to resist celestial dragons? If you are even a little rebellious, this island will be slaughtered. Then, what should be taken away? The celestial dragons will still be taken away, you can't change anything. So, when the celestial dragons came, you didn't even dare to fart. Now that the celestial dragons are beaten away by me, you just jump out. What? You think I'm better at talking than celestial dragons? Quote. Several old men were stunned. One of them stood up and said, Pirate, you protected this tree, we thank you, but no matter what, now this spirit tree has been preserved, we have to protect it. You can't take it away. Quote. Hee hee. Di Luo laughed, because he saw something in the dodging eyes of the old men. These old men seem to know something. They definitely don't want to protect this tree, but this tree seems to have some secrets for them. Now, I want to run out and rely on the old to sell the old. With a thought, Di Luo waved his hand, and the ability was activated instantly. Boom boom boom. Boom boom boom. Boom boom boom. In an instant, all metals in the whole town rioted. Then, from the small iron bodies of a few kilograms to the iron bodies of several thousand kilograms, all the iron bodies of tens of thousands of kilograms floated into the air. This island, as a supply station for marine, stores a large amount of metal, steel. Now, these things have all become Di Luo's weapons. The block of metal covering the sky directly covered the entire town. My God, what happened? Iron body is all floating in the sky. My God, if this falls, won't we all die? Is this the end of the world? What's the situation? Help, help. For a while. On the island and in other places, countless unknowing people were terrified by the scene in front of them, and the howling of ghosts and wolves could be heard everywhere. What's even more frightening is that these iron bodies, in the sky, are constantly twisting and changing, and finally turned into huge iron cones with their pointed downwards. If this falls, it will definitely be an extinct catastrophe. Stop. You, what are you doing? The old men looked at Di Luo in horror. Di Luo looked at them, with a sneer, and said, "Come on, aren't you great? Then I'll give you a few options. 1. I'll keep this tree, and then let all the natural iron bodies fall down. Whether you can block it depends on your own ability. 2nd, give up this tree, I will take away these iron bodies. How about it? Do you want to choose to have a look?" Quote. You can't do this. That's right, this tree belongs to us, you can't take it away. Even an old man was a little impatient. Pirate, keep this tree, we can pay something. An old man's tone, even pleading. Yes, we know a lot of things, and we can tell you some secrets, just keep the tree. The anxious eyes of a few old men. This also made Di Luo more certain that they must know something. Enough. Di Luo raised his hand and waved. Whoosh whoosh. Underground, countless vines burst out of the ground, entangled them tightly in an instant. Di Luo said, "Tell me, the secret of this tree, otherwise, you will take this secret into the ground." What do you mean? Among them, an old man said with dodge eyes. We don't know any secrets. Don't cry without seeing the coffin. Di Luo thought. Shua, shoo, shoo. The vines tied to the old man suddenly swelled wildly, and in an instant, they were taken off the ground, and then hung in midair. Give you time to think about 3 numbers, otherwise, don't blame me for being unreasonable. 3 2. The vines began to loosen. Stop, I say. The old man who was half hanging in the air shouted loudly, if this falls, it will be completely gone. Living to this age, they would spare their lives more than anyone else. They now know that the man below is definitely not a good man or a believer. That terrifying killing intent made them feel cold all over, that was definitely not a joke. He knew very well that that man would really do it. Hee. Di Luo laughed. Shua, shoo, shoo. The vine landed and put the old men down. After those old men landed, they were still in shock. Di Luo said, "My patience is very limited, say." The old men glanced at each other, they knew they had kicked the iron plate, this man was not someone they could morally kidnap. Now, ride a tiger. An old man gritted his teeth. Hey. Finally, he sighed and said, this tree has the effect of prolonging life. Di Luo's expression changed, and he looked at him. Be careful. The old man looked at Di Luo and said, look at us, in fact, we have lived for more than 150 years. The reason for this is all because of this tree. What? Di Luo was slightly startled, there was such a secret in it. From these old men, Di Luo really learned something extraordinary. It turned out that this plant is not simple. It not only allows people standing beside it to focus on it carefully. There is an even more amazing effect. According to these old men, this tree will bear fruit every 10 years, and after eating the fruit, it will become younger once. In other words, life will be extended once. It's amazing. And this is the real secret of their longevity. What's even more weird is that this tree bloomed from the early morning of the day, and bloomed on time at 0 o'clock. At 12 o'clock in the middle of the night, the result was on time. It lasted 20 hours without any mistakes. After the result, it can only be kept for an hour. If no one picks it, it will wither, drop, and then melt quickly. According to them, this secret was accidentally discovered by them very early on. When they found out that eating the fruit of this tree would not only make them stronger, but also rejuvenate their exhausted organs. They knew that the fruit of this tree could make them live longer. None of them told this secret, even if their children passed away, they kept it secret. If they hadn't been forced to do so now, they still wouldn't have said it. Since then, they have lived by the side of the square, and they have been secretly monitoring the tree. Once they find that the tree is blooming, they will act. When will this tree bear fruit? They will use various excuses to drive away the people around them, and then stay here, waiting for the flowers to bear fruit. According to them, they discovered this secret 70 years ago. Based on so many years of protection, they concluded that the tree blooms and bears fruit, and this tree blooms and bears fruit once every 10 years. Almost nothing goes wrong. I see. Di Luo stared at the tree with a lot of thoughts in his mind. Is this the secret of this tree? If true, that's pretty remarkable. In this world, who doesn't want to live forever? Especially those celestial dragons who were born at the top and enjoyed all the glory and wealth. Everyone in the world serves them, and they are even more reluctant to die. No wonder that celestial dragons can't wait so much. It is very likely that he also discovered the secret of this tree in the ancient book. Di Luo decided on this tree, and now, he won't let it go. Celestial dragons may know more, he must dig out the secrets inside. This lord. Among them, a trembling old man leaning on crutches looked at Di Luo and said, "It's only a year before the spirit tree blooms and bears fruit this time. Can you keep it? We need it to survive." "Yes, my lord, the few of us feel that we can't hold on anymore, we must need fruits to continue our lives." "That's right, my lord, we've already told you the whole story, please, we don't want to die." Although the old people are full of fear for Di Luo. However, the desire to live broke through this layer of fear. Di Luo looked at them and said indifferently, "I have to take this tree away, even if I don't take it away, celestial dragons will take it away too. They know the secret of this tree, they will definitely not let it stay." After thinking for a while, Di Luo said, "You have lived long enough, how about this? For the sake of telling me the truth, I can give you some compensation, and you can tell me what you want." "My lord, we don't want to compensate." "Yes, my lord, we just want to live. Please, keep it, let us live again." Looking at the old men, Di Luo frowned slightly, just about to say something. Clatter. Brush. At this moment, an iron chain was thrown out. PFF'd. In just an instant, the iron chain ran through several old men. Di Luo looked up and saw in the distance, the guy riding celestial dragons stood up, holding the iron chain that fell on his neck in his hand, and directly killed several old men with the chain. He squinted. The celestial dragon's mount, which was lying on the ground, raised its hand and grabbed the collar at this moment, panting heavily, and seemed to be suffering. Brush. Di Luo's figure flashed. Then he appeared beside him. Looking at this guy who was taller than himself, Di Luo could see that the collar on his neck seemed weird. He felt that there was a powerful energy inside. At this moment, this energy is expanding, and it seems that it is about to explode. Buzz. Di Luo raised his hand, aimed at the collar, and activated his power. Ka ka ka. The next moment, the entire collar snapped off inch by inch, including the grimace mask on his face, all shattered. From the broken iron filings, it can be seen that the mask, including the collar, is a precision instrument, and there are sea stones embedded in it. It seemed that this circle was what really bound him. It's just that, now, all the things in the collar have been destroyed by Di Luo, and the collar is useless. Di Luo glanced at the man. The man has a face with Chinese characters, and looks dignified. Unfortunately, a few scars on his face have ruined this integrity. Moreover, he is very weak now. From his neck to his chest, there is a ferocious black bear tattooed on his body, and billowing black flames are burning on the black bear. And his physique is also very strong, with well-developed muscles. "Why did you do that?" Di Luo asked. "Revenge." The man said, "The reason why I have survived until now is to wait for this opportunity." "Revenge?" Di Luo glanced at him. The man nodded, looked at the corpses of several old men, and said, "I was arrested before because these old things leaked secrets. I only found out after I was arrested. It turns out that they have another layer of identity. They are secret spies of celestial dragons, who are responsible for monitoring every move on the island. Then report to celestial dragons. Moreover, this time the celestial dragons came here, one of which is the spirit tree, and another purpose is to clean the island." Quote. Jingdao. The man nodded. There are a lot of pirates on this island who are not friendly to celestial dragons. This time, they want to eradicate these pirates at once. The people around who heard this incident were in an uproar. Don't be a pirate either. They are sweating. If Di Luo's sudden appearance hadn't caused this scene, they might have been killed by now. Di Luo nodded. That being the case, he has nothing to say. He was determined to get this tree, and no one could stop it, let alone these old men. Even if the celestial dragons came, he would not let it go. There is no reason to let go of what he is looking at. Time to go. Di Luo turned around and was about to leave. Please wait. Suddenly, the man spoke. What's the matter? Di Luo glanced at him and said. Snapped. The man knelt down in front of Di Luo and said, My lord, I want to follow you. Oh. Di Luo glanced at him with great interest and said, Give me a reason. The man took a deep breath and said, I don't want to be a slave, celestial dragons will not let me go, only you can protect me. Di Luo looked at him, smiled slightly, and said, I can cut off the head of celestial dragons, and then celestial dragons will definitely launch crazy revenge actions against me. Are you sure, you want to follow me? Hey. The man grinned and said, If you hadn't dared to swing your sword at the celestial dragons, then I would not have this idea. Only a man like you is worthy of my following. Speaking of this, Pig said seriously, I, Sammy Pig, am willing to swear to follow and be loyal to you. Di Luo looked at him and said flatly, I don't need trash by my side, so why do you think you can stay by my side? Grown-ups. Piggy spoke, and then, boom. His flesh and blood began to change, his body was covered with a layer of fur, and his face began to change. My lord, I am a zone, an ancient species, a bear fruit, and a power user in the form of a dire bear. Roar. In an instant, he turned into a huge black bear with a height of 10 meters, with dark and thick fur, like wearing heavy armor, sharp mouth and fangs, and sharp claws nearly 1 meter long. People shudder. Then, he turned around. Boom. It hit the ground with a bang. Boom. There was a huge vibration from the entire ground, and the ground was instantly torn apart. This force is truly terrifying. As he raised his paw, a deep scratch was left on the ground, and cracks like spider webs spread out in all directions. Di Luo's eyes lit up. This guy, he looked really good. Thinking of this, Di Luo said to Pig, Come on, try to attack me with all your strength. He also wanted to see how far this guy's strength could go. Grown-ups. Pig turned around, his tall body looked down at Di Luo, hesitant. Di Luo looked at him and said with a faint smile, If I can't even stop your attack, then I don't have to mess around in this sea. Wouldn't it be better to go to celestial dragons in the morning and kneel down and beg for mercy? Moreover, you don't want to try it out. How far can the person you want to follow reach? Is it worth following? Quote. Pig's expression changed, and Di Luo's words moved his heart. He looked at Di Luo, took a deep breath, and then stepped out. My lord, if this is the case, then I will offend you. Boom. In an instant, his huge body moved, but very flexible. As he exploded, his whole body was like a cannon ejected from the chamber, shooting towards Di Luo. Brush. In the blink of an eye, he jumped into the air and appeared above Di Luo's head. Boom. The huge claws slapped Di Luo's head hard without any explanation. The momentum is good. Di Luo raised his hand. Buzz. Powerful Reiatsu mixed with Haki bursts out in an instant. Boom boom boom. Pig's paw was less than 1 meter away from Di Luo's palm, as if encountering a huge resistance, it stopped suddenly. Break it for me. It's just a distance of 1 meter, but it's like a moat. No matter how hard Pig roars, it's still hard to get an inch. Drink. Piggy-eyed, terrifying Haki, wrapped around his arms, is up for grabs. I saw that his entire paws became pitch black, and amazing power spread from him, gathered in his hands, and crushed towards Di Luo. Crack. The ground that Di Luo stepped on suddenly cracked open. This guy, through him, channeled power to the ground, which was terrifying and amazing. Di Luo's expression changed. This guy is really not a simple character, and his talent is definitely top-notch. Let's grow up in the future, and it will be another top combat force. What he wants to do in the future, he needs such a person by his side. Wow. Di Luo gathered his strength, waved his hand violently, and sent Piggy flying. Boom. Pig's huge body flew out, slammed heavily not far away, and directly hit a large building. Crash. The ruins parted. Soon, Pig's huge figure walked out from the ruins. Looking at the plain Di Luo, Piggy Bear had a look of joy on his face, and said, "I'm not mistaken, you really have that kind of power. My lord, please let me follow you. My lord, please accept my offer." Allegiance. As he said that, his huge body knelt down half kneeling, and his huge paws clenched his fists, which looked a little funny. Di Luo glanced at him, turned and left. "My lord." Pig was half kneeling there. "From now on, call me the captain. Come on, you are qualified to follow me." Di Luo jumped onto the huge spoon that was shoveling the square. "Yes, captain." Pig looked overjoyed, and immediately cancelled the transformation, returned to normal size, and chased after Di Luo. As for the rest here, Marine will handle it herself. Everyone looked at Di Luo. No matter whether it was Marine or pirates, no one dared to stand up and say anything. The Emperor of the Sea was indeed not built. Far away, in a room, the Empress looked at Di Luo. With her arms around her shoulders, her whole body was still trembling uncontrollably. She has an instinctive fear of celestial dragons. He actually dared to attack celestial dragons and kill celestial dragons. Follow him, maybe I can really be redeemed, and in the future I will. The Empress gritted her teeth tightly, took a deep breath, and tried to stabilize herself. She leaned against the wall and closed her eyes. Boom boom boom. On the surface of the sea, a huge iron spoon flew over a square carrying a square. Di Luo stood under the tree and looked at the tree carefully. This tree is really amazing. If those old men are not lying, the value of this tree is absolutely immeasurable. Pig, do you think this tree is really that magical? Di Luo said calmly, holding the sword handle with one hand and putting the other in his pocket. Behind Di Luo, there was a 5-meter-high gigantic, 5-meter-tall, naked man in shorts and bare feet. Pig heard. Glancing at the tree, he said, "Captain, I heard some words from some celestial dragons before. This tree does have a very mysterious secret. As for whether it is like what those old guys said, I don't know." Di Luo nodded and said, "Don't worry, I'll investigate this matter later. That celestial dragons, I'll catch him sooner or later." Piggy's expression froze, and I clenched my fists. He also hates celestial dragons, but he doesn't have the amazing courage of this person in front of him. "Where shall we go next, Captain?" asked Pig. Di Luo nodded and said, "Go back to the boat first, we still have 2 companions." "Yes." Piggy nodded respectfully. Wow. Probably. After a few minutes, this huge iron spoon saw Di Luo's Tianmen from a distance. "Captain, is that your warship?" Behind Di Luo, Pig saw the huge warship parked on the sea, and said in horror. After traveling across the sea for so many years, Pig's knowledge has never been short-sighted. What kind of battleship he has never seen. But he has never seen a warship that can distinguish the huge battleship in front of him. This warship, just stopping there, gives a shocking visual effect. It looks gorgeous, but the main body is just an empty shell after all. Di Luo said plainly that he built this battleship using Marineford's metal resources. There is no driving power system, no weapon system, and no energy. Even the movement is driven by his ability. Although, when he built this battleship, he used a powerful conceptual design, and the design was very synergistic. However, it is a battleship filled with energy, power, and weapons. In the final analysis, it is indeed just an empty shell. No, this is by no means an empty shell. Pig said excitedly, "I have never seen such a perfect battleship." Having said that, Pig paused for a moment, then looked at Di Luo, and said seriously, "Captain, can I rebuild it?" Di Luo glanced at him and said, "You will." Pig grinned and said to Di Luo, "Captain, don't underestimate me. In fact, my original occupation was a boatman. Since I was 6 years old, I have been learning shipbuilding with my master, and when I was 15 years old, I was able to build warships independently. I used to design a lot of powerful warships and weapons. I have been a shipbuilder for 20 years. If it wasn't for some reason, I went to sea to become a pirate, I might be a great boatman. Although I haven't built a ship for some years, I still haven't forgotten my shipbuilding and warship transformation ability." Oh. Di Luo glanced at him and said with a smile. I didn't expect that you still have this ability, it seems that I really didn't accept you for nothing. That being the case, you can modify this ship. Just tell me what materials you need. Quote. Thank you, Captain. Pig said excitedly. In fact, Pig is still quite keen on shipbuilding, and his talent for shipbuilding is by no means inferior to his talent for fighting. At the beginning, if the island where he was located was not attacked by pirates, causing the entire island to be destroyed. In this line of business, he had to go to sea and become a pirate. Now, he might really become famous in the shipbuilding business. Now, seeing such an exquisite warship awakened his shipbuilding soul again. Hoo. The whole iron spoon landed on the battleship, and in the middle of the battleship, Di Luo chose a position and landed. I saw him raise his hand and wave. Boom boom boom. The iron plate began to sink, and soon became a deep pit. Then, Di Luo manipulated the iron chain that carried the living spirit tree, and directly integrated the iron spoon into the depression on the battleship, filling in a large amount of soil, and this place once again formed a square. Then, Di Luo raised his hand with a wave. Ka 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 ka. Around the square where the whole tree is located, a series of iron fences several meters high are raised to surround the whole square. Then, he stretched out his hand and pressed it on the ground on the square. Immediately afterwards, the wood-style secret technique was activated. Whoosh whoosh. In the next moment, plants and flowers grew wildly and spread across the square. In just a few seconds, this small square turned into a lush garden, growing around this spirit tree. Pig, who saw this scene in his eyes, was even more amazed. The captain's ability is really powerful. Captain, what is this? In the distance, Hawkeye with a black knife on his back came over, looked at Di Luo's series of actions, and asked a little puzzled. Hawkeye. Pig was surprised when he saw the person coming. Could it be that he was the companion that the captain mentioned before? The strongest swordsman in the world would surrender. This made him feel a little surprised. Hawkeye is notoriously arrogant, so many people tried to take him in, but all failed. Unexpectedly, now she has made the same choice as him and boarded the same boat. Pig. Hawkeye glanced at him, as if he knew him, but at the same time he was a little surprised. He had also heard about Pig's arrest. But what's going on now? Di Luo glanced at them and said, since you all know each other well, I won't introduce any more. You just need to know that from now on, we will be partners on the same boat. Hearing this, Hawkeye also smiled, and said to Di Luo, Captain, you have a good eye, this guy is indeed a capable guy. It seems that for Pig, he seems to have a good impression. Really? Di Luo nodded lightly, of course he knew about this. Otherwise, he wouldn't let him follow, he didn't need a softie by his side. Pig, on the other hand, seemed a little excited when he saw Hawkeye. He struck fists and palms together, twisted his neck, and said, Hawkeye, the last time we fought, we haven't decided the winner yet. Now, since we are all companions, are you interested in competing? Anytime. Hawkeye raised his head, looked at this huge man, and smiled slightly. He has never lacked interest in fighting, especially fighting with strong men. Bump, 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 bump. Now. On the huge battleship, Tianmen, two people fought on the wide deck. The two sides in the battle are exactly Pig, the former great pirate and the world's #1 swordsman, Hawkeye. Pig has completely turned into a bear, with a huge body over 10 meters, like a walking titan. Armed and wrapped around him, his destructive power is even more astonishing. His huge claws left deep scratches on the steel deck. Regardless of his huge size, his movements are not slow at all, very fast. Moreover, as an awakened zone, his resilience and defense are quite astonishing. Even Hawkeye's slash, he was able to defend against it, which shows how perverted he is. Pig is a perfectly awakened zone-capable user, not comparable to those jailer beasts who failed to awaken zone and impel down. Between his claws, there is black energy entwined, and every time he swings his claws, it can bring out a terrifying wave of energy. The combat power is quite strong, it is worthy of being a ruthless character who fought with Kizaru for a day and a night. However, his opponent is not simple. As the world's #1 swordsman, Hawkeye's fighting power is equally powerful. Even, it can hold Piggle down. However, it is by no means easy to truly defeat Pig, and it is even impossible to do it. Di Luo casually made a wooden chair in the garden of the square, sat on it, and watched the two fight leisurely. It has to be said that these two people are very powerful in combat. In a short period of time, it is impossible to tell the winner. After watching for a while, Di Luo simply lay down on the chair, closed his eyes and meditated leisurely. Captain Di Luo. Not long after, a cautious voice sounded outside the square garden. Di Luo opened his eyes and saw that it was the guy named Jie Wei. With bandages all over his body, he said, "I found a ship approaching your warship." Oh. Di Luo got up, moved his body, and appeared in the bow of the boat in an instant. Looking towards the sea level, sure enough, not far away, there is a speedboat speeding towards this side. Di Luo is not in a hurry, no matter what the purpose of the visitor, he is not afraid. Clatter. Clatter. Soon, the speedboat sailed through the wind and waves, and arrived under Di Luo's warship. When seeing the person coming, Di Luo smiled slightly, it was the Empress. In addition, there is another person, who is Sophia, who Di Luo wanted to invite before, and she came with the Empress on a speedboat. Looking at them, Di Luo waved his hand. Clatter. The entire speedboat rose directly from the water and quickly flew to the warship. Under Di Luo's control, the speedboat landed on the deck. Came back. Di Luo glanced at the Empress and smiled slightly. The Empress nodded and said, "Well, I'm back, but Captain, when I came back, I met someone who also wanted to see you." Snapped. Sophia jumped off the speedboat, came to Di Luo, looked up at Di Luo, and said, "Di Luo, does what you said before still count?" Di Luo nodded and said, "For those who are capable, I am willing to give her a chance, and you can choose whether to board the ship or not. First of all, what I want to say is that I joined you for selfish reasons. I hope that one day I can use your power to take revenge." Sophia stared at Di Luo and said. Di Luo smiled lightly. "Since I value you, it means that you are valuable to me. As long as you are sincerely loyal to me, then your business is my business. Don't worry, no matter who your enemy is, I will always step on your feet." Quote. Di Luo's words are quite confident, but he has the ability to be so confident. Strong strength is the root of all self-confidence. Sophia took a deep breath and said, "Okay, with your words, I, Noi Sophia, am willing to board your battleship." Ha ha ha, okay, since you have chosen to be my partner. Then, from today onwards, you are a member of my Tianmen pirates. From now on, I am the only one in our Tianmen pirates. Quote. Di Luo laughed, he was very happy to join Sophia. He is still very optimistic about this woman. Most importantly, Sophia's bartending and cooking skills are really good, and the food is very suitable for his taste. With her, you can enjoy delicious food at any time in the future, and she also has good strength, which is quite good. In the distance, Hawkeye and Pig also stopped fighting and walked over. Di Luo is at the forefront. Below, are his current 4 crew members. Carrying a black sword. Knight's #1 swordsman in the world, Hawkeye, Dracule. Mahawk. The most beautiful woman in the world, Boya Hancock, the king of Daughter Country. The big pirate, the perfect awakener of Zone's ability, and also a very good boatman, Sammy Pig. Paramesha, who has the ability to distort fruit, is also an excellent bartender and a great beauty who is also a chef, Noi Sophia. Di Luo is still very satisfied with the elite crew among the 4 elites, all of them are excellent crew members. But it's true, the current Di Luo has such a high vision, he really doesn't like ordinary people. Not far away, looking at the luxurious lineup, Jie Wei swallowed a mouthful of saliva, retreated quietly, and huddled in a corner of the boat alone. When he saw that the famous New World Big Pirate Pig also joined the Tianmen pirates, he knew that he was completely useless. Compared with these few, he is not even an ant. He doesn't dare to have any extravagant thoughts now, his only hope is that after he leads the way, Di Luo can spare his life. "Hey, I said Indigo, I've been dawdling for so many days, how is the investigation going?" On an unknown island. In a dark cave, behind a large stone table, there is a person lying on a chair. This person's specially made legs are placed on the table, shining with a cold light. Asked the man in a lazy voice. Creak. The wooden door was pushed open. A man with blue hair, wearing a blue jumpsuit and a white coat walked into the cave. Then he began to pantomime the people behind the desk, performing a series of strange movements. His acting can only be described as abysmal, and his audience can't understand what he wants to convey. Hey, you speak well, I'm in a bad mood right now, I don't have the heart to guess what you want to perform, just tell me clearly. Boss Shikai, you really don't understand humor. The guy named Indigo suddenly stood still. Then he looked at the person behind the desk solemnly, and said, Boss Shikai, the investigation is almost done. I have already grasped the position of the new Emperor of the Sea, Di Luo, but this person is a bit special. Hey, this so-called new Emperor of the Sea, I really want to meet him, the guy who replaced Whitebeard, I want to see if he has the strength, if he is a softie, Lousy will definitely screw his head come down. The person who spoke was a man with blonde waist-length hair and a boat rudder on his head. His legs on the stone table were missing from the calf down, replaced by 2 swords. Famous swords, Sakura 10, and Deadwood. This man is the legendary pirate, Golden Lion Shikai, who once competed with One Piece. Not long ago, he lost to the Straw Hat Pirates. After falling from a high altitude, Shikai was found by the Marine fleet led by the Ghost Spider, and Shikai, who lost his combat effectiveness and consciousness, was arrested by the Marine again. However, when he was sent to impel down, he woke up, and then he escaped again by his tenacious perseverance and powerful ability. After escaping, he found a place to hide. This time, he vowed to keep a low profile and stop acting recklessly. Boss Shikai, you better not underestimate Di Luo. The latest news, this guy killed the celestial dragons on Buro Island. Although the celestial dragons were rescued by their secret organization, the guy actually swung his sword at the celestial dragons and successfully beheaded the celestial dragons. Quote. What? Shikai was surprised. Kill the celestial dragons. This is something that even he didn't do, unexpectedly, does anyone really dare to do it? The price of killing the celestial dragons is huge. Before, he also thought about making a move against celestial dragons, but he never did it, not because he didn't dare, but because he didn't have the right opportunity. However, Shikai soon recovered, and lazily said, don't worry about him, this sea is not what these brats have the final say on. They are still too immature, and there are many things that we need to teach them to let them know how cruel this sea is. Quote. Indigo shook his head, looked at Golden Lion and said, Boss Shikai, don't forget that you just lost to the Straw Hat Boys, are you sure you want to provoke this dangerous guy now? I have observed his battle, he is indeed a fierce guy, I suggest that we should not provoke him now. Quote. With his hands in his sleeves and a big cigar in his mouth, Shikai said with a smile, there is a reason for losing to the Straw Hat Boy, you and I know it all well. I don't even care about Sengoku and Garp, let alone a rookie. Straw Hat Boy, the next time I meet him, I'll crush him to death, it's not much harder than crushing an ant. However, I am not interested in the Straw Hat Boy now, but I am really interested in the new Emperor of the Sea. This guy may be of use to me. Quote. Even if he loses his big fleet, even if he loses his legs, even if he loses to a mere rookie pirate. But he is still the legendary great pirate, Golden Lion, Shikai. The ambition to swallow the world, the pride of the lion roaring the world, the courage to look down on the world, and the ambition to watch the heroes still exist. He will not give up on himself just because of a little setback. After so many years, he has never experienced any kind of storm. He has not changed, he has not been discouraged, he is only temporarily retreating and forbearing. One day, he will appear before the eyes of the world again, and show the world his golden lion demeanor. No way. Indigo shook his head. Why? Shikai glanced at him. This guy has recruited Hawkeye, the Empress, and even an arrogant guy like Pig to join him. Do you think such a person will be at your disposal? Indigo said. Hey. Shikai stood up and said with a smile. Employees don't have to be included in the command before they can be used, as long as what he does can achieve our goals, it is also for my use, isn't it? He moved the celestial dragons, and next, the Marines will come out in full force, and even the loyal dogs secretly cultivated by the celestial dragons will also attack. Maybe, Marine might launch a buster call. In this way, Marine will start a fierce fight with Di Luo. Quote. Speaking of this, Shikai stared at Indigo and said, You keep an eye on Marineford for me, I want to keep abreast of Marineford's movements. This time, once the number of people dispatched by them exceeds the limit, as long as those two guys, Sengoku and Garp, are not there, then it's time for me to make a move. Once we get the blueprint of the super weapon hidden in Marineford, we will not be afraid of anyone. Quote. Boss is wise. Indigo said. In addition, the guy from Blackbeard Teach sent someone to say that he wants to see you and discuss something with you. Teach. Shikai touched his chin and said, is that the traitor on the Whitebeard ship? That's right. Indigo nodded. Shikai said. This is a very dangerous guy. Before, I noticed that this kid was unusual. I reminded Whitebeard, but he didn't believe it. Unexpectedly, he actually turned against Whitebeard and got the dark fruit. Does this ambitious guy want to become the second Rocks? Quote. That's right, this guy is a mad dog who chooses people, do you want to meet him? Indigo said. Well, it's okay, let his people come. Although this guy is dangerous, he is also valuable. Seeking skins from tigers is what I am best at. Shikai said indifferently. Good. After a few days. Boom. Boom. In this vast sea area that stretches as far as the eye can see, a huge battleship is sailing through the wind and waves. On Isle of Buro, Di Luo became famous. These days, there are no more blind-eyed pirates coming to make trouble. Occasionally, when he encountered pirates, he bypassed his battleship far away and gave way early. However, to Di Luo's surprise, these days, Marine didn't make any moves, and there wasn't even any news to know. He killed celestial dragons. Although that celestial dragons was rescued, it is an indisputable fact that he beheaded celestial dragons. If it weren't for the guy with the ability to travel back in time, the celestial dragons would really be dead. Such a disrespectful act. It stands to reason that Marine and celestial dragons should have troubled him by now. But for some reason, until now, nothing happened. Di Luo was a little puzzled. At this moment, on Di Luo's Tianmen, Di Luo, naked to the waist, was lying on the chair under the spirit tree. While driving the battleship to sail, while relaxing with eyes closed. On the wooden table in front of him, there was a glass of wine, and Tionk was beside him. At Sophia's request, Di Luo opened an open-air bar in his square garden. With Di Luo's ability to manipulate metal and trees, it couldn't be easier to build such a bar. Designed according to Sophia's idea, Di Luo set up a perfect bar for her within 10 minutes. It's a bar and kitchen all in one. The bar built by combining metal and trees is not only full of metal features, but also embellished with flowers and greenery. The flowers and plants spread throughout the bar. Behind the bar, Sophia, who is in good shape and in a suit, is mixing drinks, pouring them out from time to time and taking a sip by herself. As for the materials used, when they left before, they went to Buro Island again and made a lot of purchases. Not only food, but also things that can be used in construction. Pig's construction soul was awakened, and he vowed to build the Tianmen into a perfect warship. At this moment, Pig is building in the cabin with a muffled sound. He wants to install a power system on the battleship first. This point is quite important. It is impossible to rely on Di Luo's ability to drive it all the time. In that case, the battleship will be too restricted in action. Once Di Luo is no longer the captain, this battleship will be useless. This is not what Pig wants to see. How could such a perfect battleship not have a matching power system? However, it is not easy to equip such a huge battleship with a power system that can drive it. General Power cannot drive such a huge battleship at all. Fortunately, he has been exposed to a very advanced power design before, and he still keeps this design firmly in his mind. In addition, they expropriated a lot on Buro Island before, including Marine's collection on the island. Almost all of the hundreds of tons of materials were packed and taken away by Di Luo. The battleship was full, and there was no shortage of materials anyway. After that, you only need to manufacture step by step. Aided by Di Luo's ability to manipulate metal, he's also pretty quick to build. Those who need Di Luo's ability to help, he will come to ask Di Luo for help. However, most of the time, he was just messing around with himself. After all, Di Luo is still the driving force behind the operation of this warship. The Eagle Eye is standing on a high observation deck to watch the distance. Go Wei followed Hawkeye, pointing the way. Empress, resting in the garden, she has nothing to do for the time being. Blue. Brew. 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 Di Luo was resting with his eyes closed when he was suddenly awakened by a series of noises. He got up and glanced at the table, where the phone bug was making noise. Crack. Di Luo raised his hand, took the words on the phone bug's back, and said, "Hello." The phone bug immediately imitated Hawkeye's appearance, and at the same time Hawkeye's voice came. "Captain, Marine's warship is found in the distance ahead." Oh. Di Luo sat up, holding the microphone, showing a slight smile, and said, "Is it finally here? I thought they forgot. How many Marines are there?" "Well, the sea level is densely packed, there should be no less than 100 ships." Hawkeye said. "Who is the leader?" "It's Akainu, and people from the Celestial Dragon's secret organization." "Okay, got it." Di Luo said that he didn't really care. Although a secret organization of Admiral and Celestial Dragons is a strong lineup, in his eyes, it is still not enough. Crack. Di Luo hung up the phone bug returned to normal, and went to rest with his head down. Di Luo got up, stretched his neck, and said with a smile, "I haven't exercised my muscles and bones for a few days, and my hands and feet are rusty." Crack. Not far from him, the Empress stood up, looked at him and said, "Captain, do you want to fight?" Di Luo nodded. "Of course I'm going to fight, are you waiting to be caught by them?" "Huh." The Empress took a deep breath and said, "I'll go with you." "Need not." Di Luo waved his hand and said, "I'm going to fight, our ship will definitely be attacked by Marines, you still have Hawkeye, Sophia and Pig, you stay on board and kill any Marines that approach Tianmen." Quote. Understood. The Empress nodded. Sophia also came out from behind the bar counter and nodded to Di Luo. She still believes in Di Luo's strength. He raised his hand to pick up Tionk and put it on his waist. Brush. Then, Di Luo took a step forward, soaring into the air the next moment, rushing into the air in an instant. Buzz. On the deck, a huge iron sword soared into the sky and landed at Di Luo's feet. Di Luo stepped on the iron sword and looked into the distance. Sure enough, on the sea in the distance, densely packed marine warships appeared. They surrounded Di Luo's Tianmen in a semicircle and moved towards him. On one of the warships, Akainu stands on the bow. Hoo hoo. Hoo hoo. Di Luo stepped across the sky with a huge iron sword. Behind him, the coat roared in the wind, holding on to the hilt of his sword, he steered it across the sea. Boom. Below, the sea roared and parted a road, splashing waves of waves. Whoosh. Di Luo's giant sword directly lay across the marine warship. Ka ka ka. On the surface of the sea, hundreds of marine warships stared at Di Luo who came from the sky, and all aimed their cannon barrels at Di Luo in the sky in an instant. Brush. The iron sword controlled by Di Luo stopped on the marine battleship. I glanced at the major marine battleships, and on the warships in front, none of them had at least one naval headquarters powerful vice admiral sitting in command. They waited in full force one by one, staring at Di Luo closely. Di Luo turned a blind eye to this, but looked at Akainu on the battleship below, and said with a faint smile, "Hey, Akainu, I haven't seen you for a few days, you are mobilizing people, are you going to attack me?" Snort. Akainu looked up, looked at Di Luo standing in the sky, and said directly, "Di Luo, you guy, you dare to attack celestial dragons. Don't you know that this is a death penalty? Any guy who attacks celestial dragons will be punished. Obliterate. Even you are no exception. Capital offense." Di Luo smiled contemptuously and said, "There is no one in this world who can condemn me to death. Crazy guy." Akainu looked at Di Luo and said, "Di Luo, this is not naval headquarters. There is nothing here that can threaten you. Marine has issued a buster call to you. Everything related to you will be wiped out." Tisk tisk. Di Luo smiled and said, "Buster call. Do you really think that leaving naval headquarters will threaten me? A dangerous guy like you should have been killed early." Akainu said decisively. "You can come and have a try." Di Luo looked down. "All shells, aim at Di Luo." Akainu raised his hand and ordered. Ka ka ka. At this moment, all the shells of the warships on the sea were aimed at Di Luo. Fire. Hee hee. Boom boom boom. Boom boom boom. Boom boom boom. In an instant, countless cannons fired together, and the sound of the cannons shook the sky. Buzz. Di Luo raised his hand and activated his ability. An invisible wave, centered on him, spread out in an instant. Ka ka ka. Ka ka ka. In the sky, countless shells stopped neatly, all of them stopped around Di Luo. Hey! Akainu looked at Di Luo and sneered, do you really think that after seeing your ability, we will attack without preparation? As he spoke, he raised his hand and waved. Detonate. Zzz. All the bombs that were frozen in midair by Di Luo's ability began to tremble continuously. Then, the whole starts to turn red. Huh. Di Luo's expression changed. Boom. 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 The next moment, violent explosions were heard in the entire sky, and the explosions sounded one after another on the sea. These bombs can be detonated manually by remote control. Even if Di Luo freezes them with his abilities, they can still explode. Just get close enough. These bombs exploded very powerfully. As they continued to detonate, the powerful impact swept towards Di Luo, and the terrifying explosion power was layered on top of each other. Wood-style wood expulsion jutsu. With a whisper in the smoke and dust. Ka ka ka. A wooden shield shaped like a grimace with fangs surrounded Di Luo in the middle. Boom boom boom. Violent explosions came one after another. However, this powerful attack hit wood-style wood expulsion jutsu's shield, causing no damage at all. The defensive power of this wood-style secret technique is extremely powerful. In the past, even Uchiha Madara's mighty outfit, Zuo Shuneng, could defend against the slashing attack without any damage, let alone this kind of explosion. Standing in it, Di Luo just felt a slight tremor. Boom boom boom. Boom boom boom. As wave after wave of explosions swept across, Di Luo remained motionless. It's not that he has no countermeasures. He just wanted to try to see how far this defensive secret technique could go. So far, it seems that the effect is quite good. Round after round of shelling from marine hit the shield without any damage. It is worthy of being a secret technique of the fairy level, and it can be regarded as an absolute defense. After half an hour of bombing, white mist rose on the surface of the bombing sea, and the bombardment stopped. How? Akainu looked at midair. Where he stared, he felt a little weird. It stands to reason that this kind of shelling could at most delay that person, but why didn't he move for so long? Dispersed with the smoke. In the sky, a wooden shield formed by 8 faces appeared. This is it. Akainu was astonished. This shield, which looked like wood, actually blocked the shelling for half an hour. Impossible, this is definitely not wood. Dark Hound. Akainu squinted his eyes, raised his hand, and threw out a punch. Boom. His arm made of billowing magma instantly extended, turning into a huge magma fist, and smashed towards the shield. Boom. With a loud noise, the shield did not move at all, but hot magma splashed everywhere. Ka ka ka. The next moment, all the wooden shields were opened, and Di Luo stood there stepping on the iron sword. Looking at Akainu below, he smiled and said, your attack can't even break through my defense. Now that your attack is over, then it's up to me. Brush. Di Luo raised his hand. With a sound of crack, the tionk around his waist was unsheathed. Everything returns to dust. Ryujin Jakka. Boom boom boom. Following a faint sound, flames spread across the sky. On the sharp sword in Di Luo's hand, flames entwined around him, surrounded by thick pillars of flames, it looked like a flame god descended. Seeing this, Akainu thought to himself, sure enough, this guy's fire ability comes from that knife. Thanks for watching.